Coming up on the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
What animals do you have?
Cows, and cattle, and sheep, and goats, but we don't, as you know, let them anywhere near the vineyard.
Because they are always hungry. I just love wine research because it's
Indeed.
full of so much useless information. My go-to word is delicious. It's delicious.
It's delicious.
I like it. It's
and
delicious.
And there's nothing wrong with that because it's true.
Who are the queer punk bands? I want to know.
Listen to the show.
Do I have to go back and listen?
And now, the Tall Mike Wine Podcast.
The cell phones have been silenced. The wine is poured. We pour it ourselves to ensure complete accuracy. And just like that, the podcast begins. The Tall Mike Wine Podcast, the wine podcast that's not all about wine. The wine podcast like no other. I'm Mike Stone, your host for the podcast that's heard in 77 countries, on 6 continents, and in 48 of these United States. Coast to coast from Santa Clara, California to Newcastle, Delaware. From Plano, Texas to Chaska, Minnesota, home of the world's largest 3D printed mustache. Yeah, sure, you betcha. And wherever you are, thank you for finding me. I appreciate you checking out the podcast. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. Wouldn't want to miss an episode. Also, if you're new here, please note there are a whole bunch of episodes for you to catch up on. Scroll through the archives. You'll be glad you did. And now you can help me with the dollars and cents of the podcast. Become a sponsor. You can chip in as little as $3 a month to keep the podcast going and keep it commercial free. $3 or $5 or $10. What else are you going to do with your money? Remember, you can't take it with you. Click the support the show link in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com. Thank you in advance. Now it's time for episode 55. I'm back at Nicholson Ranch Winery in Sonoma, our in-house part-time podcast studio, the Vintner's Room. It's after hours. And my guest is here. She works at the winery with the funny name just down the street. She grew up in suburbia near Chicago. She spent a lot of time before she got to wine country in Beverly Hills, California, dressing up the window displays for Saks Fifth Avenue and Neiman Marcus. And now, in addition to her winery work, she hosts a punk rock radio show on Sonoma's community-run radio station, 91.3 FM KSVY. My guest is Nora T. Murphy, a.k.a. Nora from Aurora. Welcome to the podcast.
I think I'll go home now. I'm done here.
What do you mean?
You've said it all.
No, I've got notes. I've got pages of notes.
Okay, well, let's do it then. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome. This is your first time at Nicholson Ranch.
Physically, that is true. I have driven by it hundreds of times. I work with one of your former coworkers.
Yes, you do, my pal, Johnny Genius.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
We're hiding here on the main road between Napa and Sonoma.
Exactly.
So everyone that, say, works in Sonoma and lives in Napa or vice versa passes us twice a day. And often those people eventually come up the driveway and say, I've passed this place twice a day for the last 10 years and I've never been up here.
And I am no different.
I want to create a special wine club called the Twice a Day Club.
Oh, I like it.
All right. The winery I mentioned in the intro, the winery with the funny name, Gundlach-Bundschu.
Very nice.
Just down the street. Insiders know it as GunBun. Let's talk about your life at the winery. Your life, my life. I like to refer to our special role as talking to strangers all day.
Yeah, it's true.
Because that's what we do.
Yes, and making them become your instant friends all day.
Exactly.
But then maybe possibly never seeing them again.
No, it's true. It's very transient, like, hey, how are you? My last group of the day today. Very nice people from Toledo, Ohio. We bonded. They were my only group at the end of the day, so I poured them another pour, a little extra something, a little something different.
Sure.
They wanted all the stories, and when you tell them all the stories, it's like, oh, we're bonding, and then they're leaving.
And that was wonderful, and thank you so much.
I do, however, tell them about the podcast. I hope that they will listen.
Yeah.
And then maybe keep in touch. There's a few people that actually follow me on Instagram that have been here before and send me little messages in Instagram.
Sure.
Or, hey, we're coming back to Sonoma. Do we get to see you again? And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's really cool.
Same.
I am
same.
flattered by that.
Yeah, same here. And one of my goals too, especially if I'm hosting a tour, guiding a tour, there's several different people there, several different groups. And my goal is for them to make friends as well.
It really is a performance, isn't it?
Oh, indeed.
Because I feel like my time here at the winery has prepared me maybe to go off into the world of improv theater or stand-up
I dare
comedy
ya.
or something like that. Because you get to know the rhythm of the crowd. You know, you
Absolutely.
have the
You're
little
working
things
it.
you say that, will make people laugh.
You
And
got a shtick.
sometimes it
We
falls.
have a shtick.
Sometimes it doesn't fall. And I think,
Absolutely.
okay, I kind of get how that is.
And then you have to not only work that, that blank stare, perhaps, and then you have to work with the hecklers.
Yes. Or there's all sorts of stereotypes. There's the guy that comes and knows everything and just keeps talking. When you say something, he says, oh, because this, oh, because that. And I'm like, well, maybe, sort of. There's a lot of diplomacy involved sometimes.
Indeed.
Do
Hospitality.
you do mostly tours?
I do mostly tours.
Okay,
yes.
so you're walking around all day.
I am either walking through the cave in the vineyard or I am driving the Pinzgauer.
Oh, the Pinzgauer, that's that car that has like 8 wheels on it or something.
6.
Oh, okay. I've seen
6
pictures.
or 12,
It's some old like Army Reserve car or something.
Correct. Yes, it is a 52-year-old vehicle that, for lack of a better word, it's a kind of an open Jeep, but it is Bavarian made for the Swiss Army.
Pinzgauer. It's a great name.
Isn't it?
So we're going to taste some wine now.
We are tasting some wine.
Nora has brought some wine from Gundlach-Bundschu. Before we do that, though, I'm going to present you with your very own stack of Tall Mike Wine podcast coasters. Yes, these are for you from me.
Hallelujah. I love a good coaster.
You can take them home and dress up your area.
Look
Dress
at
up
that.
your
I
wine.
can just put my glass right
Put your
on
wine
your face.
right on my face, yes.
Yes. And swirl my glass around.
The glossy finish on the coaster makes for a very nice swirl.
It does, actually.
I find,
I
doesn't
like
it?
that.
It's nice and smooth.
It
nice
is
and
very smooth. I like it.
Tell us about the wine you brought.
I brought the 2023, so the newest release.
Young and fresh.
Indeed, as our Gewurztraminer usually are. 2023 Gewurztraminer, we do this in a completely dry style, so 0 residual sugars. If anybody out there knows traditionally, historically, anything about Gewurztraminer, we get a lot of them at the winery, assuming it's going to be very sweet.
Grandma's wine.
For sure.
Buy a little late harvest Riesling for Grandma. She'll be happy.
She'll be happy. Well, they're out there still. But we've been doing the dry style for some time now. So in our case, that means 0 residual sugars.
Yeah, it's not sweet, but it does
it's
have
fruity.
that
It's definitely
fruity thing. So even people that say, "Oh, I don't only like wine," they can drink this.
And
It's very accessible.
And also a lot of people who say, I don't drink white wine. At the end of it, say, that is a white wine I can drink. Multi-layered.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
It's got some really nice body to it.
It does
The
indeed.
mouthfeel is pretty big.
Yeah.
And we get
and
this-
the nose.
I did smell it, but I couldn't wait to sip it. So now I've got a mouthful of it.
And a lot of people who smell it assume it will be sweet. It just, because it's a bouquet.
That's a thing with the very effusive white wines. You get that floral and you get all that nice fruit, and it smells almost a little syrupy.
Right.
I don't know why that is, but yeah, it's nice and dry. But even on the smell, there's a lot of floral, but there's also a lot of that like wet stone.
Indeed.
A lot of minerality.
Yeah.
On the nose.
My cheeks are tingling from a little grapefruit, but that's me.
I
Definitely some tropical.
I get that, but I also get like white peach.
Definitely.
It's peachy, it's apricot-y, it's almost like a lychee.
That is the word right there. Yes.
Lychee. Look it up.
Or lychee.
Or
Some people
lychee.
say one or the other. We're never too sure which way it's supposed to be.
What does this bottle cost?
$29.
Oh, that's a steal.
Pretty much the first grape they grew. Gundlach-Bundschu being the oldest family-owned winery in California.
Yes, it's still owned by the same family.
Same family. It is
Six generations?
generation
Okay.
run
I
now.
got some of the story. I got some of the story.
yeah.
Have been there a few times.
It's
I
a
have
lot.
good friends in Seattle that are members of Gundlach-Bundschu.
Excellent.
My friends.
Hi, members of Gundlach-Bundschu out
The
there.
Reeds from Seattle.
Okay,
Karen
fantastic.
and Jeff, and they listen to the podcast too.
Okay, great. Hi, Cara and Jeff. Cara and Jeff might be very interested to know if they haven't been out in a few years. This particular 2023 Gewurztraminer is our first release with not only our CCOF certification, which means we're 100% organically farmed, but now, as of September of last year, regeneratively organic.
No, I heard about this.
Regenerative is global. It's not just the United States. It's a global association. And no matter what farm you farm, you are diversifying your soils by introducing diversifying food to that farm by cover crops.
Oh, okay.
And animals.
The things you plant in between the vines.
Not just vines, but whatever you grow. So diversifying the soils, no matter the soils, diversifying your farm, no matter what you farm.
What animals do you have?
Cows, cattle, and sheep and goats, but we don't, as you know, let them anywhere near the vineyard.
Because they are always hungry. And they will
and they climb on things. And they
anything.
Yes. But sheep and cattle, yes. Bees, of course.
Oh, you have hives?
We do. We do indeed.
That's cool.
It's all about, not only diversifying your soils to keep nitrites and carbon dioxide in that ecosystem. Also, there's a 3-tier system of regenerative organic certification. The 3rd tier is actually the health and welfare and safety of your farm workers.
That is a thing that I remember hearing about.
It may sound like your everyday thing that everybody does, but it definitely is not.
No.
And to just stand on top of the hill and shout it from the rooftops is that vineyard speak. We became only the 16th vineyard in the world to receive that certification. So bing, bang, boom. Cheers to that.
Regenerative.
Cheers to the Bundschu's.
Very nice.
Cheers to our sustainability manager.
Hold up your glass. I'm going to take your picture.
There we go.
This will be for the Instagram.
Oh, no.
You'll be able to see Nora on my Instagram, which is Tall Mike Wine.
Sipping on some dry Gewurztraminer 2023.
It's pretty tasty, especially because today was a pretty warm day.
Also, it goes great with spicy food.
Oh, yeah. Like Thai food would be nice.
Exactly.
All right. Let's talk about how all this happened for you. Your bio, which you sent me, thank you.
You asked.
It reads like an outline for a movie.
I thought movies were linear.
Well, I mean, we're going to make it linear here. We're going to start at the beginning. You're from Chicago.
Outside of, yep.
Okay. Yep. Why was your family there?
They came from Ireland a few generations back. Got into various things. I mean, we're all descendants, right?
Sure,
They made it as far as they could
right
through the United States.
Right.
My particular grandfather was in commodities, so Chicago's.
It's the pork basket of America.
Cow.
Actually. Cow. Oh, it's not pork?
I don't believe so.
So the family is there. That's how you ended up there.
That is how I was made there, yes.
Okay. Rest of the family, siblings?
I am the 5th of 6.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
That's a pretty good... Is this Irish Catholic family we're talking about?
Indeed. In the 50s and 60s. Yes. Exactly.
So you had the older kids taking care of you then.
Let me just say how they took care of us is going through all the manners of trying to be disciplined. And by the time I came along, they let me get away with everything because, it was the 60s.
I think younger kids have that advantage. Exactly. The parents are a little bit tired out. And a lot of times, by the time the younger kids get a little older, the parents are making more money. And maybe some of the older kids have moved away. So the strain on the family budget is a little lessened. So the younger kids get a little more spoiled.
Maybe a little spoiled, but also a little bit more leeway because mom wants to go to work.
Right.
Get out of the house. She's just been through a couple decades of
being a mom and a housewife.
Rearing.
Yeah. My mom went back to work when I was in junior high. She had 3 boys and I was the middle. Then we became latchkey kids because mom got a job in a bank.
Indeed.
All right. You went to college for fashion merchandising. Why did you do that? And where did you do that?
Because I didn't want to go to college.
Okay.
Yeah.
But had you not done that, you would have just stayed on the treadmill and gone to a college, yes?
That was up in the air.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, that was expected,
Okay.
but it wasn't thoroughly talked about.
Okay.
I had a lot of music interests, just free form interests, but definitely I had already worked in retail, in fashion, at department stores. My mom was a fashionista. She gave that to me, and that was something.
So your mom knew how to put an outfit together?
Well, she also made all our clothes.
Oh, I have a very similar
Yes.
upbringing. My mom had the patterns
Yeah.
and the electric scissors and the sewing machine going all the time. Yeah.
So thanks to Mom, we were all fashionistas.
Okay. So-
Yes, but I took to it more than my
So
siblings.
well turned out kids.
We looked good.
That's awesome.
We looked good.
So you decided to do this. Where was the school?
This school, oddly enough, was in Arlington, Texas. I don't know why. Can't really explain
What's
it.
the name of the school?
It doesn't exist anymore.
Ah!
Another.
Burned to the ground.
It just didn't work out.
Okay.
Bigger places happened, like,
Okay.
Fidham and Brooks and all those colleges that really put a focus on it. This was a very small, low-key place, but I just wanted to get out of blizzards, basically.
Okay. Right. So you moved south.
Yeah, I moved south. I went through the school and I'd already worked in retail, so I didn't want to. I already knew merchandising. I already knew how to sell. I already knew all that. Visual merchandising was a new thing for me, and I'm an artistic person, so I took to that immediately, meaning, do the displays, build the props, make art.
And you did that at college. And did they teach you about that?
Kind of created that program as an internship because everybody had to close out their college years in an internship in a retail situation,
Correct.
and nobody was doing visual. And I said,
You brought it to them.
yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
And so I went to work for internship, and then they hired me after college.
Where
at a
was that?
department store in Dallas.
In Dallas?
Yeah.
Which store?
Josky's, which
Oh.
probably also doesn't exist anymore.
Come down to Josky's.
Right across the street from Neiman Marcus, by the way, in the Big D, who I would later end up working for in Beverly Hills. But I got my groundwork at this,
Okay.
very Macy's-like.
Right. Yeah, department store.
Yeah, correct.
A lot of people don't understand that used to be like the thing.
Absolutely.
This is where you
Oh my
go.
gosh.
When you went back to school
It's
shopping.
an experience.
We'd go to J.C. Penney's.
Absolutely.
Or there was a store in the town I grew up in. The town I grew up in is in Washington State called Bremerton, and it was founded by this guy named, I want to say, Edward Bremer. So Bremer
Makes sense.
ton.
Yes.
And there was a department store called Bremer's.
Yeah.
And so we go to Bremer's, we go to J.C. Penney's. Maybe we go to Sears. We had those
Yes.
flavors. And
The flavors.
That was about
Yes.
it.
I guess luckily, having been near Chicago, that was a thing for my mother to take us to, and I was the most receptive to that. However, Dallas and Texas, it and I were not really receptive to each other.
Okay. So then
Yeah.
the next step is, well, we're going to talk about that after we sip the next wine.
Yes,
Go ahead and I'll
I
pour you a little bit of this
Thank you.
wine. So I brought a wine that is red, and we're going to talk a little bit about it.
That's a great sound, and it's a beautiful color.
Isn't it nice?
Mm-hmm.
This wine is from Italy. It's from Tuscany.
Oh,
Italian wines are complicated. Would you agree?
dramatic.
There's so many reasons. There's so many regions, rather.
and reasons.
And reasons. There's a classification system. You have your
Yep.
DOC, DOCG, IGT, Vino di Tavola. Even though the wines are complicated, they're fun to talk about because the names are so Italian.
Yes.
So this is a wine from the Tuscany region of Montalcino, but it is not a Brunello di Montalcino, although it is made of Sangiovese grapes, which is what they make Brunello di Montalcino
Explain
out
that.
of. Okay.
Please.
All right, so let's do this. This is a wine from a winery called La Gerla. That's Gerla. This will be in the show notes if you want to look down at your phone. And it says right here on this particular wine is one of their Sangioveses that they call Birba, B-I-R-B-A. Birba is Italian for rascal. And the owner of the winery, the guy that started the winery, who is a name you might recognize, actually, because he actually has a tie to the world of fashion.
Indeed.
Sergio Rossi.
Aha. Aha.
Sergio
Indeed.
Rossi. He was an advertising executive until he got into high fashion and wine, and now there's shoes.
Indeed.
And the shoe line is now owned by Gucci. So something good happened.
That is linear right there.
Sergio Rossi.
Yes, I know the name.
He bought a vineyard and he wanted to make a wine like Brunello di Montalcino, but he wanted to age it in French barriques instead of those big, giant wooden things they aged the Brunello in.
Okay.
What if we made a Brunello and we aged it in the French barriques? And people said that's really not the way they do it.
That's not the rule.
There are so many regulations in Italy. Basically, you break it down like this. You got Vino di Tavola, which is the table wine. This is our basic wine. You may like it, you may not like it. And then you have the upper wines, which are DOC and DOCG. And that means you took your wine and you got it certified by the, I think Nora likes the wine. She's making faces. Either that or she's having a stroke. I can't tell.
Don't say that.
So you had DOC, DOCG. One means you took your wine and you had it analyzed and certified by the Bureau. The other one means you did it more intensely. So the DOC, DOCG. And then there's, you didn't do those things, but you made this wine. It doesn't quite fit any of the categories. We're going to call this IGT.
Correct.
So this is an IGT, which means it's from Tuscany, and you could call this a Super Tuscan, but there's no other grapes in it. The Super Tuscan is usually going to be mixed with Cab or Merlot in there.
Right.
So they just kind of went off the beaten path. They said, we made this wine. It's sort of in the spirit of Brunello di Montalcino, but it's not technically a Brunello di Montalcino because the wrong barrels and not enough time in the barrel. So we get to call it an IGT. So the name of this wine is La Gerla Birba Vino della Toscana IGT. And it's from 2017. Now here's the information on the wine. It spent about 14 months in barrel, but only 30% of the barrels were new. So not a lot of new oak.
No.
You really taste the fruit in this wine. And the fruit was all grown on like this little 20-acre vineyard that they make all their wines from. They make a Brunello di Montalcino and they make Chianti. No, they don't make a Chianti because they're not in Chianti. I just love wine research because it's full of so much useless information that's just fun to talk about.
But it sounds great.
Doesn't it? So, you know,
but it is a lot of work to get to that information, and that's important.
La Gerla, established in 1976 by Sergio Rossi, top European ad agency guy. He bought the 30-acre estate from the Biondi Santi family, and he renamed the estate La Gerla. He died in 2011, but his wife, Donatella, runs the estate to this day.
So Sangiovese, though,
yes,
it's got to be just a big, bold grape to begin with. If it's only spent 30% on new, that is...
There's a lot happening.
There's a lot happening in that.
And Sangiovese, this is, I like to talk about the origin.
And this is 100%?
100% Sangiovese. And the name Sangiovese, from the Latin sanguis Jovis, blood of Jupiter.
I don't think I did know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Isn't that great? Jupiter
is bold.
Because they've been growing this wine in that region since the Romans.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some history here. So that's why Italian wine's hard. It's a hard nut to crack to get through all the DOC, DOCG.
Indeed.
Et cetera, et cetera. But it's fun because there's so much history and the names are fun. Sergio Rossi.
Indeed. I have heard that you've got the accents in your repertoire, so there you go.
I like to play around.
Thank you for sharing with me. That's amazing.
This is a pretty intense wine.
It is.
It is a 2017, so you would expect it to calm down, but it's pretty big. And I opened this a couple hours ago. I gave my coworker Arthur a taste because he's always itching for a taste of something.
All right.
Different.
Well, thanks, Arthur, for sharing.
No, Arthur had a taste and then he left. What do you smell?
My gosh.
There's something really woody, but not like oaky to me.
I feel like there's some tobacco.
Definitely.
Essence.
I think that's what I'm trying to say. Tobacco.
But a certain kind. Tobacco leaves, tobacco.
Mm-hmm. The green leaves or the brown leaves?
Brown.
Okay. Brown tobacco leaves. And then you get into the fruit and it's just mile after mile of cherries.
Yeah.
It's got some good acidity. My mouth is watering.
Definitely. And it's already opening up as we have been speaking in the glass.
We need like
important.
a Tuscan style steak or something with this.
What is a Tuscan style steak?
I don't know. I'm just faking it here.
Little tomato marinara on that.
Maybe.
Cool.
Right.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome. Let me give you just a
good... Yeah.
Let me just give you a few other facts and figures. This got 92 points from James Suckling.
Oof.
He says, very vivid and creamy with black fruit, dark chocolate, hints of vanilla, medium to full body, firm and chewy tannins, and a flavorful finish. Really a flavorful finish? Come on, James. You can do better than that.
That's funny.
Flavorful finish?
Well, it reminds me of a tasting I did recently in Sonoma that said, I have nothing to say except it's yummy. That was the host, by the way. It's just yummy.
No,
but it is. You're right.
My go-to word is delicious. It's delicious.
It's delicious.
I like it. It's delicious.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
it's true.
It's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into describing these wines sometimes, but flavorful.
The blood of Jupiter, in fact.
Flavorful finish. Oh, thanks, James.
Okay, I think I'm going to use the blood of Jupiter from now on.
Yeah, for sure.
Even if it doesn't have anything to do with Sangiovese.
No. All right, so let's get back to your story.
Oh, dang.
From Dallas, did you move right to L.A. after that?
Yes, I did.
Was that where you wanted to be, or that's where the jobs were? Or some other reason?
That's where the wind took me. A friend was moving to California, and I followed her.
Oh, okay, that's handy.
And then that is where the job landed me.
How'd you get hooked up with Saks, Fifth Avenue, and Neiman Marcus in
that took a few
Beverly
years.
Hills?
Well, that took a few years. I went straight to a department store, much like Joske's, much like Macy's.
Okay.
That was a very big Southern California staple. Okay. Which eventually got bought out by Macy's. Okay. I was a visual designer there for several years, but I had other desires.
Tell me about those. Tell me about your desires.
Artists, artistry. Mm-hmm. I was photographing everything around Los Angeles. I was going to rock and roll shows. I was going to comedy shows. Productions were happening everywhere. Film and television, and that seemed like a grand segue for me. Not so easy.
No.
Not so easy.
You can't just say, oh, I want to do this thing that all these other people want to do.
And they are, and everybody else is trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
But, I did fall into a pretty creative crowd.
Okay.
And I tried to, full disclosure, get out of retail. Mm-hmm. But again, film and television is not so reliable. I started working on some really low budget, even Roger Corman films in the art department, props and set dressing and things of that nature.
He just passed away, didn't he?
Yeah. He did. R.I.P. And hanging out, taking pictures of rock and roll shows, comedians, archiving, all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of all over the map. And
what general time frame are we talking about here?
The 80s.
The early 80s, the late 80s?
All of the above.
Okay. So you were into some of the 80s bands that were coming to L.A. or some of the L.A. bands that were trying to make it?
And that were making it, definitely.
Name some names. Come on.
Well, Black Flag, Fear,
that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Mink DeVille, and also, my fave band, The Replacements, were traveling through. But I was also spending a ton of time at the Improv with the comedy world. And in the 80s,
and that was
a serious comedy boom.
Not only was punk rock exploding, but so was what we now know is stand-up comedy. Back then, it was just sort of like, oh, there's this club and it's comedians, and it was a new thing. It wasn't like a thing that was established.
Yeah.
Who were some of the comedians you saw?
Everybody.
Okay.
Hung out with. It's a tighter circle.
All right.
No, I really did. I saw them all pass through there, from Dangerfield and Robin Williams and Seinfeld and everybody. My friends who were performing eventually, as it happened quite commonly, became writers on some very huge sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, that's where they got their start. And that was a very big yet tight circle.
Sure.
Yeah. That was a big couple decades, frankly.
And working the windows
Yeah.
at Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue.
Correct.
And that used to be a huge thing too.
It was a huge,
Because the window displays
was right on the street.
were supposed to be like, this is what's going to draw people into the store.
And it did.
It's like another form of advertising, right? So it's important.
It was a big form of advertising, especially on Wilshire Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
Giant windows all the way down, traffic stops. That's the main thoroughfare from downtown Los Angeles to the beach and back.
So you're trying to get people's attention.
Yeah, we were on stage too. So,
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you had all the mannequins at your disposal,
yes.
dressing them up,
Dressing them up right there.
coming up with thematics for them.
Yeah.
You're almost doing little plays for the mannequins, right?
Yeah, we're doing stage plays, we're doing dioramas, and we're creating a scene. The thing that hurt me a lot was creating this huge installation of art and then destroying it a week later.
Oh,
and then
just a week?
sometimes a few days, and then creating something else.
Sure.
It was backbreaking and it was hilarious. It was a lot of fun, but it was definitely a lot of work.
Hard work, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you're basically an electrician, a carpenter, a furniture mover, a floor installer, a painter, name them all.
How many people were working with you on that?
My favorite story about that is Saks Fifth Avenue, the late 1980s, early 1990s. I was one of the first, or the only, I should say only, all-female crew at Saks Fifth Avenue doing the visual displays. There was just 5 of us. Usually that was incredibly male-dominated.
Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
And we became the only one. And in fact, friends who, another circle of people who do what we did was like, yeah, somebody told me to go, get a job at Saks Fifth Avenue. And they're like, are you kidding me? No, those females, all that whole group, they intimidate me. I can't go work there. Yeah, that was pretty special.
All right. So you had a good couple of decades in LA. What neighborhood did you live in?
Almost 3. Mostly Hollywood.
Okay.
Like smack dab in the middle, at least adjacent to and walking distance to Hollywood Boulevard most of the time.
And then at some point you moved north.
Well, here's the thing. As an artist, I always wanted to experience living in San Francisco, all my life, knowing that was an artistic place, a literal place, a lot of literature, a lot of poets, a lot of arts. So that was kind of my goal. Los Angeles became a very comfortable place to stay, even though it was kind of a love-hate thing most of the time. Mm-hmm. And the way I made that happen, I was an assistant to an executive producer, a very prominent sitcom producer in Los Angeles, and he was a dear friend of mine. I had known him at least 2 decades by this time. He asked me to be his assistant. He had a 3 sitcom deal, kind of a pilot deal, right? And so we made one pilot. Then he started doing crack.
Okay,
you weren't expecting that, were you?
Okay, then.
His 3 pilot deal kind of went to hell.
All gone.
God love him. He got fired and I got fired at the same time. And I was like, well, that was that. And I'm not sure at this point I'm going to look for another entertainment job.
So you'd done what you could do, seen what you could see, and it was time to...
I wasn't getting any younger at that point.
Change the scenery.
Change the scenery. And maybe this is my opportunity. So I, oddly or not so oddly, dog walking was really at the beginning of that whole scene as well. I'm at the forefront of all these movements, babe. I started a dog walking business
in LA,
in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Then that took me to San Francisco, where I bought a business,
a dog care business
up in San Francisco, and that got me here.
There's a dog outside.
Was that a coyote or a dog?
That was a dog. That was my friend Cooper.
Q.
That was my friend Cooper. He lives next door.
Did somebody call me?
He just cruised right by the window.
Did somebody say walk?
Hey, Coop.
So that got me to San Francisco.
Okay. Now you're in San Francisco.
I am finally in San Francisco.
You're walking dogs.
Yet our Ted basically left. Tech had moved in. Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about San Francisco.
I am talking about San Francisco.
Latter part of the 90s.
Actually, 2010.
Oh, okay.
This is the second
wave.
Long story short, I bought the business, sold it 5 years later for double what I bought it for. Yay, me.
Yes.
Took some time off and did a walkabout around the country, spent time with people, thought about moving back to Los Angeles, thought about going back to retail in San Francisco. This was all horrifying to me.
You left it behind. You can't look back.
That's the ultimate goal. Thankfully, that is what happened. I did get to look back because my friends here in the Sonoma Napa Valleys, who I had been visiting and spending time with, said, shut the hell up, Nora, and just move here to wine country and get a wine job. And I said, you silly person, I don't know anything about wine.
Doesn't matter.
And that's exactly what they said.
Doesn't matter. We're all personalities up here. And as long as you're good with people.
Yeah.
You're good with people.
Yeah.
And they can tell you what to say about the wine.
Yeah. And
you learn a little bit about the wine. And then pretty soon you're just putting on a show.
Well, not only that, Mike, but once I learned a little bit about the wine, I found out it was a subject that I actually really liked and wanted to learn more about.
Even better.
Yeah. Not only that, rock and roll, because the first time I ever walked onto the property of Gundlach-Bundschu, a couple of years before I even needed this situation, I was there for a concert.
Who did you go see?
Mudhoney.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
see, I can relate to that because that's Pacific Northwest.
Exactly. But then when it came time to look, lo and behold, my friends were right, and winejobs.com cat out of the bag there was very responsive, and
that's a great site.
Gundlach-Bundschu was one of the first to respond, and I've been there 7.5 years.
The rest, as they say. What do they say? I forget.
History. And boy, is that a big part of Gundlach-Bundschu. And I love that part as well.
So we've just blazed through page 2 of my notes.
Oh, good.
Look at that. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? 7 years is a good long run at one winery.
So I've heard.
A lot of people hop around. Yes. I've been here 7 years.
Yeah.
We're the same. How have they managed to keep you around so long?
How have they managed to keep me around so long?
You like the wording of that question?
Yeah.
I meticulously
that makes me think.
Meticulously write these notes.
It is the full combo of everything that Gundlach-Bundschu, GunBun has to offer me is not only just that rock and roll, literally, but the rock and roll spirit of the place.
Okay.
The rock and roll spirit of the family, rock and roll spirit of the history of that intact. And their wine is freaking fantastic. And they've given me every single opportunity from the very first year I got there to try my talents at every single job.
And one of those things led to you getting discovered by the radio station. Tell me about that.
So the wine business, as you and I have surely read and experienced, is going through some... Always there's a growing pain here, there, and everywhere,
yes.
Right?
There's always an issue.
Yeah, there's always something, and there's always, let's try this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this. Let's see if this sticks. Let's throw this out there.
Let's fix what's broken.
And a lot of that right now is traffic, meaning not traffic on the road, but traffic in the wineries.
Not Traffic the band.
No, not that either.
Sorry, Steve Winwood.
Yes. So a year or so ago, we had this fabulous thing that they put together, a monthly happy hour. They were sticking to winter months when it automatically already gets a little slower.
Sure.
Getting traffic after hours once a month, third Thursdays, by the glass, by the bottle, pizza by the slice, and a DJ.
Okay.
Spinning records
right.
in our tasting room. GunBun always being musical, there's always been a record player or
Right.
stereo. Okay.
Did you volunteer or did they
No.
say, Nora is going to be good at this? Nora!
I'm not going to say that's not true. But I think practically this event was so well received that they ran out of Bundschu's to do it.
Oh, they had the family doing it.
Jeff did it. Katie did it. Caspian did it. The winemaker did it. Then they were like, exactly what you said. Nora, you want to do the next one?
Yes.
So it just so happened that a couple days, I think, before it was my turn, Jeff Bundschu went on said radio station, KSVY 91.3.
91.3. You like the way I do that?
Yes, Voice of the Valley. And touted it. And Ronnie, the program director, said, I love GunBun. And he went back down there that Thursday night. And I could tell this guy was keeping a side eye on what I was playing and my interaction, and came over and said, do you want a radio show on KSVY? And I don't want to say the expletive. I will if you want me to.
Let her
But
rip.
It was a hard yes.
Let her rip.
I said, are you fucking kidding me? Hell yes. And that history has been now a year and a half as well.
Thursday nights,
8 to 10 p.m.
KSVY.
.org. You can
Okay, there
do
you
it
go.
locally, but it is streamed all over the world.
That's great.
Yeah.
We're recording this on a Friday. You did your show last night. Who were some of the bands you played?
Well, it's June still. Sometimes I do, for at least some portions of my 2 hours, I do some themes, and it's Pride Month.
Okay.
Actually, I've been doing some kind of 80s dance parties for the last couple of weeks for a portion of the show, but last night it was all queer punk bands, or at least the subject matter.
Who are the queer punk bands? I want to know.
Listen to the show.
Do I have to go back and listen? Oh, come on.
Look
So-
at my playlist.
So is there, yes, you can go on the website and the playlists are there.
The playlists are
I've
there.
seen them.
And also I am on Spotify and keep my playlists.
So you could just fire
all
it up
my
on Spotify.
Playlists from the radio show are on Spotify.
How do we search for
Nora
them?
Murphy, Nora T. Murphy. That also informs me if I've ever played a song before.
Had you ever done radio before?
Nope.
It's fun, isn't it?
It is.
How about podcasts? Have you been on many podcasts?
No, but I am interested in myself in doing one.
Oh,
I mean, there's room for more, is there not?
I can help you with that.
Okay. Excellent.
I didn't know anything about
This is the beauty of Sonoma, wine country. Wherever you are in wine country, the community is a real thing.
I didn't know anything about podcasts until I started listening to them and thought, oh, where are the wine podcasts? And then realized they're all kind of stiff or too techie.
I was gonna say,
too
yeah.
involved in like the soil. Let's talk about the soil. So I did the research and figured out it's not that hard to create a podcast that now goes all over the world.
Right. And your niche is good because we all pretty much, if you weren't born into it, ended up here in a very circuitous way.
Yeah. And that's why I like to tell the stories.
Yeah.
I like to tell people
Exactly.
stories.
It's a story.
Well, thanks for hanging out.
Thanks you for having
Thanks
me.
for telling me your story.
Thank you for having me. I hope it was of interest. And you know what?
Doesn't know what to say now.
I don't. And that doesn't mean I want to talk about myself all the time, because I do agree when you talk about a life story, it's from someone who has lived one, and it is not always directional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
you're right.
You may end up somewhere you never thought you believed you would ever show up and land. And here I am.
I tell people here at the winery all the time, I say, no little kid, when you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, says, I want to work at a winery, unless they're, in the Mondavi family or something.
And that's just forced, and they probably don't.
Or in the Bundschu family. So all of us ended up here somehow. And a lot of people are hip to that. Like today, those people from Toledo, after I, started telling them the stories and spinning the magic and stuff, they're like, tell us about you. How did you get here?
Yeah, I get that too.
They're curious. They're like,
Yeah, I get that too.
How does this person exist in the world? What?
Because how did you make it this far?
What happened? I have no other skills.
Oh, Well, that is not true, Mike, and we all have some skills. We just didn't know how to direction them into where we
I know.
belong.
I say that as a joke.
Of course I know.
All right, I'm going to wrap the show up now. Are you ready?
I am.
Here we go. The Tall Mike Wine Podcast was conceived and is written, edited, produced, and maintained by yours truly. To see behind the scenes, follow me on Instagram at Tall Mike Wine. If you have questions, comments, suggestions, if you'd like to be a guest, or for your very own stack of official Tall Mike Wine Podcast coasters, drop me an email to tallmikewine@gmail.com. Have you listened back to the previous episodes? There's a lot of them. I'd say a binge-worthy amount. Knock yourself out. Get caught up. If the podcast brings you as much joy as it does me, help me keep it going with a few bucks a month. Become a sponsor, $3, $5, $10, you decide. I'd appreciate it a lot. Click the support the show link in the show notes or go to tallmikewine.com. Episode 55 is over. Thank you, Nora T. Murphy, for hanging out. We'll be locking up the vintner's room now, but I'll be back again soon with another episode. Thanks for listening. I'm Mike Stone. Keep swirling. Keep sniffing. Keep sipping. Cheers.